Okay, aloha mai kako, everybody. Welcome to the meeting of OHA's Committee on Budget and Finance. It is 2026, and it is 10:23 a.m. Members present is Trustee Souza, Trustee Aquina, Trustee Galuteria, Trustee Akaka, and myself, giving us the quorum to conduct the meeting, and I'm officially calling it to order. Okay, guys, here's our favorite part of the meeting. Aloha, this meeting may be viewed via live stream at OHA's website as well as on Olelo Community Media. As a Zoom attendee, you will be asked, or you will be able to watch and listen to the proceedings. If you wish to testify on a specific agenda item, please follow these steps. Raise your hand to indicate you would like to testify. In this case, we will change your status from attendee to panelist. This may take a few seconds, so mahalo for your patience. As a panelist, you will be given 5 minutes to testify. You also have the option to unmute yourself if you wish to do such a thing, and also turn on your camera if you wish to be seen. If you're not dressed, you can turn it off, you can leave it off. But when recognized to testify, please only speak to the agenda item being considered. If you begin to address another topic, you will be deemed out of order. And should you continue to speak on matters outside of the agenda item, your speaking time will end. Once you have finished testifying, please mute yourself. You will be then returned to attendee status. Also, please silence your mobile phones. All right, guys. Supporting us today, supporting us on staff is Crane Akina and Melissa Winahan. Also present is our Honorable COO, our Kapunui, Sean Kikina, and I would like to introduce him and bring him to the table to introduce the remaining administrative staff supporting us this morning.
Mahalo nui, Chair. Aloha mai kako. Mahalo nui, trustees as well. This morning we have with us from administration in support of this meeting our investment director and interim CFO, Ryan Lee, our budget chief, Grace Chen, our associate general counsel, Rizal Agog, our senior director of Hawaiian Cultural Affairs, Lāma Kukui, our grants manager, Chantel Belay, our director of community engagement, Lisa Von Secona, our IT systems engineer and administrator, Daniel Santos. We also have with us I think that's good. Or Inima Kela as well. Mahalo.
Okay, thank you, Ponui. So members, at this time, we are on to approval of the minutes, the committee minutes of March 4th, 2026. So I am officially moving that we approve the committee minutes of March 4th, 2026. Members, is there any changes to the committee minutes of that date? Okay, as there are no changes, can I get a roll call?
No testifiers.
For its, okay, for its approval, and there's no testimony, that's, yeah, roll call.
Trustee Ahuna is excused. Trustee Akaka.
Aye.
Trustee Akina.
Aye.
Trustee Alapa. Trustee Galateria.
Aye.
Trustee Kahele is on his way. Trustee Trustee Kahele.
Aye.
Mahalo. Trustee Lindsay. Trustee Souza. Chair Waihe'e.
Yes.
8 yes votes.
Okay, the minutes are approved. Members, we are now going to have a presentation by independent third-party auditors, N&K CPAs, regarding the annual draft audited financial statements of the Office of Hawaiian Affairs. And I will now, Keishan, you can bring up the appropriate
Mahalo, Chair. I'd like to call to the table our investment director and interim CFO, who will also be bringing up our auditors and also our financial consultant.
Thank you.
Wayne Tomino. Mahalo.
Okay, aloha mai kako, Chair, Vice Chair, fellow trustees. Mahalo for the opportunity to present this item before the Budget and Finance Committee. This morning, we have a presentation by OHA's independent third-party auditors, N&K CPAs, regarding the results of the audit of OHA's financial statements and single audit for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2025. Joining us today are members from the N&K Audit Engagement Team, Charles Gooden, Principal, Taylor Morey, Senior Manager, and Alex Lay, Senior Staff Member. Also with us this morning are members of the OHA team, Wayne Tomita, our external accounting consultant, and Feng Fuketa, OHA's controller. Now, following the presentation and questions from the trustees, the committee will take up the action item BF 2605 to approve the report of the independent third-party auditors regarding OHA's financial statements and single audit report for fiscal year in June 30, 2025. So at this time, I'm going to hand it off to Charles and his team to start the presentation.
Thank you very much. Good morning. Okay, so quickly what we're going to cover here is Taylor's going to go over the summary of our auditor's results, and then I'll go into some required communications. Before we get started, I just do want to kind of thank the OHA team. You know, we've been working with them now for a few years. I used to do the audit back in the day too, but working with Fang, with Ryan, and with Wayne has made the audit much easier than it could be, right? And I know this was new for Fang this year, but having continuity with both Wayne and Ryan definitely helped a lot. And we did get started a little bit earlier this year than we did last year, so that also helped a lot too. Okay, so Taylor will cover some.
Oh, so many mics. Can I use this one? All right. All right. So first, I'm going to start off with the summary of the auditor results. So on the report on the audit of the financial statements, this resulted in an unmodified opinion. For our report on internal controls over financial reporting and on compliance and other matters, we did not identify any deficiencies in internal controls or any material weaknesses. And for our report on compliance and other matters, we had no instances of non-compliance or other matters that required reporting. Lastly, for our report on compliance for each major federal program, this report resulted in an unmodified opinion, and we had no identified deficiencies in internal controls or material weaknesses. So, to summarize, overall, no audit findings, clean opinions across the board. Next slide. Oh, sorry, 2 more slides. We'll go into the statement of net position. So everyone's favorite part, the numbers. I'll try to keep it brief, but if you have any questions, please feel free to let me know. So year over year, total capital assets, they remained relatively consistent. There was a slight decrease that was mostly due to disposal of PP&E, which was offset by purchases of PP&E, property, plant, and equipment, by the proprietary entity. Other assets, they increased about 50.1 million, and that increase is primarily driven by investments, so unrealized gains on the investments held by OHA. The deferred outflow of resources increased by about $780,000. This was primarily driven by an increase in the valuation of the pension asset, and the OPEB valuation remained relatively consistent year over year. Moving to liabilities, total liabilities decreased by about 8.3 million year over year. This decrease was largely driven by a decrease in debt from the principal payments, a decrease in the net OPEB liability, and a decrease in overall AP and accrueds. Part of that was offset by an increase in compensated absences from the implementation of GASB 101, but I'll cover that on the next slide. The deferred inflow of resources decreased by about 2.6 million, and that was primarily driven by a deferred inflow, by a decrease in deferred inflows related to leases, lessor leases. So overall, net position for FY25 was 868 million, 61.7 million increase year over year, and that amount represents total assets and deferred outflows in excess of liabilities and deferred inflows. Next slide. All right. So on this slide, you can see the total revenue amount increased year over year by about 3.8 million. Most of that was increased from charges for services or rental income. And then there were decreases of expenses year over year of about 3.8 million, and that was largely due to an increase in beneficiary advocacy expenses. Overall, the year over year change in net position remained relatively consistent. The only thing I did want to call out here is there is a difference between the fiscal year 24 ending net position and the fiscal year 25 beginning net position. That is because of the implementation or adoption of GASB 101 compensated absences. The impact of that was about 1.5, 1.6 million on net assets, and this is retroactively applied, which is consistent with the guidance.
Trustee Lindsay.
Thank you. While you're giving us this report, in a previous meeting, we were told that we were over our spending limit. Our spending limit was at 20%, and we were at 27%. So while you're going through this report, could you share where we went over? Because we voted to lift that 20% to 30%. I want to know where we went over on that 20%.
Apologies, it wasn't part of the meeting beforehand. Can we get back to you with that question?
In that meeting, I asked you the same question, and you told me you would get back to me, and you didn't.
No, I'm sorry, I'll get back to you. I wasn't sure which meeting you're referring to. I'm sorry.
Okay. Are there any other questions? Okay, then. Huh? Oh, no. Why did it stop? Okay, sorry guys, continue.
Okay, thank you. I'm gonna continue with the communications with those charter of governance. So those charter of governance is just the entity that is in charge of the overall governance of OHA, so that would be the trustees, right? And so as far as our responsibility under US GAAP and government auditing standards and the uniform guidance, our responsibilities are to express opinions about whether the financial statements are fairly presented in all material respects in conformity with US GAAP, and those responsibilities were previously communicated to you in our planning communication letter dated December 11th, 2025. As far as significant audit matters, OHA's significant accounting policies are disclosed in Note B to the financial statements. If you take a look, that'll be starting on page 31 of the financial statements. We considered OHA's accounting policies to be appropriate and consistent with US GAAP as described in Note B to the financial statements effective July 1st, 2024. OHA adopted GASB Statement 101, compensated absences. This is what Taylor was talking about. And also GASB Statement 102, certain risk disclosures. The implementation of GASB 101 resulted in an increase in the liability for compensated absences and a reduction in net position of $1,559,249. Management also determined that GASB 102 did not have a material effect on OHA's financial statements. So I guess just some background real quick. So GASB 101, that compensated absences one, this is just a requirement that makes it so that government entities need to record a liability for sick leave. That's primarily what the difference is. Previously, sick leave was just disclosed. It was never recorded on the financial statements. Vacation has always been recorded as a liability because there's a terminal benefit, but now sick leave also has to get recorded. So that $1.5 million liability is for sick leave. As far as the qualitative aspects of accounting practices, we noted no transactions that were entered into by OHA during the year for which there is a lack of authoritative guidance or consensus, and all significant transactions have been recognized in the proper period. As far as accounting estimates that are sensitive and significant, the most sensitive estimates, in our opinion, are fair value measurements of investments measured at net asset value, the proportionate share of net pension and OPEB liabilities, and then lease receivables and the related deferred inflows of resources. We evaluated the key factors and assumptions used to develop these estimates and determined that they're reasonable in relation to the financial statements. I'd like to say, thankfully, that there were no difficulties encountered in performing our audit. There were no corrected or uncorrected misstatements that were a result of our audit procedures. There were no disagreements with management. Prior to issuing the financial statements, we will require that management sign what's called a management rep letter. That letter will be dated the same date that the financial statements are dated. And then we were not aware of any consultations with other independent accountants. A few more slides. Other audit findings or issues, we generally discuss a variety of matters, including the application of accounting principles and auditing standards with management. But that's not, that's just, that occurs in the normal course of our professional relationship with OHA. Other matters, so there are required supplementary information that supplement the basic financial statements. There's a whole bunch of required supplementary information schedules in the back, starting on page 67, going all the way to page 73. Yeah. We made certain inquiries of management regarding the methods of preparing the information and comparing the information for consistency with management's responses to our inquiries, the basic financial statements, and other knowledge we obtained during the audit. We did not audit the required supplementary information and do not express an opinion or provide any assurance on the RSI. As far as the compliance audit goes, we reported on the CFA and the Native Hawaiian Revolving Loan Fund financial statements, which accompany the financial statements but are not RSI. We made certain inquiries of management and evaluated the form, content, and methods of preparing the information to determine that it complies with US GAAP. The method of preparing it has not changed from the prior year, and the information is appropriate and complete in relation to the audit of the financial statements. In addition, we were not engaged to report on the letter from the Chief Executive Officer, which accompanies the financial statements as well. Any questions on anything that either Taylor covered or the required communications that I just went over? Okay, if none, then the last thing is really just these upcoming accounting pronouncements. So for fiscal year 26, there are 2 new GASB statements that are going to be implemented, that are going to have to be implemented by OHA. The first one is GASB 103, which is the financial reporting model improvements. And then the second is GASB 104, disclosure of certain capital assets. We will work closely with OHA management to ensure that these new statements are implemented correctly, but as of right now, I do not believe that these are going to have a significant impact on OHA's financial statements. Yeah. And that's all we have for today.
Okay. Are there any questions, members, on the presentation? Trustee Aquino.
Thank you, Chair. No questions, but I just want to say thank you very much to N&K auditors. Appreciate all your hard work, and to the entire team in administration, including you, Sam, and the others who worked on this. Great job. I feel very confident looking at our financial statements from July 1st, 2024 to June 30th, 2025, seeing that they have passed with flying colors. a third-party audit. So congratulations to the administration for that accomplishment. This is a good thing. It's an audit report, but you can all smile now.
Thanks, guys. So with that, members, I'd like to put a motion on the table to approve the report of the independent third-party auditors, N&K CPAs, regarding the annual financial statements of the Office of Hawaiian Affairs report and the single audit report for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2025, conducted in accordance with government audit standards and uniform guidance. So, what?
There's more.
Oh, man. Okay.
Yeah, it's on there too. It's right there.
What did I, guidance? Guidance. Approve, approve the report of independent third-party auditors, N&K CPAs, regarding the annual financial statements of Office on Affairs report for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2025, conducted in accordance with government and audit standards and uniform guidance and attachment A. Approve the report of independent third-party auditors, N&K CPAs, regarding the annual financial statements of the single audit report for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2025, conducted in accordance with government and audit standards and uniform guidance and attachment B, and authorize the administrator or designee to take all other responsible actions necessary and appropriate to complete, issue, file, and distribute the reports. And it's on that screen in case you guys want to refer to it. Is there any discussion on the motion, members? Okay, hearing none, then.
We have no testifiers as well.
Okay, there's no testifiers. Can we get a roll call vote?
Trustee Ahuna is excused. Trustee Akaka.
Aye.
Trustee Akina.
Aye.
Trustee Alapa. Trustee Galataria. Trustee Kahele. Trustee Lindsay. Trustee Souza.
Aye.
Chair Waihe.
Yes.
7 yes votes.
Okay, the motion passes. Members, we are moving on to, all right, let's see. Thanks, Ryan. Okay. Whew. All right. We're moving on to new business. C, action item BNF 2606. Has anyone signed up to testify on this item?
No testifiers, Chair.
Okay. So I'm going to put a motion on the table, which is approve budget realignment number 1. This is such an oddly worded thing. Wait. Okay. I'm just going to read it the way it's written, even though it doesn't sound grammatically, it sounds odd. But approve FY26 budget realignment 1. This realignment modernizes OHA's fiscal framework by synchronizing personnel costs with actual onboard dates, centralizing administrative travel for better oversight, updating the organizational structure to reflect current operational needs, and related amendments to program structures and resource allocations as summarized in attachments number 1 and 2, and listen to this part, guys, and amend OHA biennium budget for fiscal biennium periods FY26 and FY27. Realignment number 1, approval of core and non-core budgetary allocations for proposed reallocation of funds under option 1 and or option 2 to cover temporary staffing costs. Funding plan based on estimates, option 1, internal reallocation, $132,800, sufficient to support 5 temporary staff supports, temporary staffing costs through August 2nd, 2026, $28,000 HR reimbursement, NHLRF temp staffing, $44,800 beneficiary services, 4510 contracts, 60,000 board legal counsel FY26 personnel surplus, Option 2, supplemental allocation, $93,000 sufficient to support 5 temporary staff, extends temporary staffing coverage through October 26, 2026, $93,000 CFO FY26 personal surplus. So that's, and it's that on the screen, if you want to read it. You may notice that it's slightly different than what the action item you read said. So I will turn this over to Keishan to explain this motion that I just put on the table.
Mahalo nui, Chair. I'd like to call up Grace Chen to the table to discuss this further.
Okay. Aloha kako, Chair Wahie, and trustees. My name is Grace Chan, Budget Chief for the Office of Hawaiian Affairs. I'm here today to answer any questions relating action item BF 2606, which requests your approval of the fiscal biennium budget realignment number 1 for fiscal 26 and 27. The purpose of this realignment is to update the fiscal 26 budget to reflect, 1, the board action items, and to reflect, 2, operational changes and departmental requests since the original budget was adopted on June 30th, 2025. The amendment that is proposed today were late adds that came about after the action item was submitted, and it's included as a request to reallocate additional budget adjustments, and then it provided the explanations provided. For now, I can walk through the tables if there's any questions in the action items to see how we got here in the tables today, tables 1 and 2, or can answer any questions regarding the attachments. Attachment 1 has the fiscal 26 and fiscal 27 revised budgets. There's no changes to fiscal 27. Changes are only applied to fiscal 26 to bring it forward from June 30th, 2025 to current date. Attachment number 2 is the OHA organizational chart. Again, there have been vacancies in our original org chart on June 30th, and then again to bring it to date to what it reflects on March timeline. Then attachment number 3, as the positions are filled, what the placeholders for the unfilled positions we were holding a proposed salary. Now that we have actuals, I'm also updating, and the actuals for those positions that are filled are provided in attachment number 3. Attachment number 4 is an updated budget line-by-line details, all the changes that have occurred from, again, the June 30th version to what it is today. So I'm open for any questions on for now, this before I discuss the amendment today.
Okay, are there any questions, members? No? Okay. Okay. Is that the end of the presentation?
With regards to amendment number 1, I was notified recently that the temporary staff, which is currently filled by the remedy staff for the unfilled positions, that the funds are low and that they'll be running out of funding within the next couple of weeks. As of today, there's $27,000 available with a spend rate of about $8,000 per week. Now, as I look back and looked at the original budget for fiscal 26 and 27, it was not funded. The current PO that is using, it came from fiscal 25. It's a fiscal 25 budget allocation that has been carried over for fiscal 26 use. Just for some background, the original allocation, it was funded with $173,000 from last year's budget, and that has run down now and currently is $27,000. Because we still have vacant positions, we're asking to reallocate from the funds that Chair Wahia mentioned, so that we can cover if the option, as mentioned in option 1, if those are approved, then we can extend coverage until August 2nd based on supporting 5 temporary staff. We have 3 temporary staff right now this week. Next week, we're proposing, HR notified me there are vacancies in the BOT office, and that 3 will be increased to 5. So using at the current rate, I applied it and then saying that with 132,800, we can, if approved, we can support the temporary staff through August 2nd. That would be to continue supporting the staff. Any questions on that? The next one, option.
Hold on, this is 89-day hires.
This is the 89-day hire. Yes, that's right. Again, it was fun. It was not budgeted in fiscal 26 and not budgeted in fiscal 27 either. It was when we were preparing the budget. We anticipate that those filled positions would be filled and that we would not, and that the available balance at that time would be able to cover. But as we see, there are still vacant positions and we still require funding for it.
Wait, Grace, sorry. I finally kind of see, I asked them to give me the motion that you guys wanted to have passed, and they gave me this, but I realized it's, you want us to choose option 1 or option 2, not both of them.
I leave it open.
Okay. What do you recommend we do, option 1 or option 2?
I would like to see option 1 and 2.
Okay, no, that's good. All right, no, then we're fine. It's hard to understand how it's worded, so, good, no, that's good. Summer.
Yes, if I may, thank you. I just want to sort of put some clarity and simplicity around the request. So temp hire funding allocations are a necessary operational function. We are currently operating at a 15% vacancy rate, which is our ideal, but we still have ongoing staffing needs that are sometimes associated with seasonal or surge workloads, and then also some temporary fills for continuing or ongoing vacant positions. So it's, to my knowledge, OHA has never operated with a depleted temporary hire fund. We are sort of nearing that bridge if we don't find a way to supplement that funding. We are about a month away from using up all of those funds. And so this proposal provides an option that looks at all of the surpluses that we currently have, many of which are related to realigning current vacancy allocations to this temporary fund. So we're not asking for new money to be dropped into this account. What we are doing is looking at where we have surplus, correct, and moving it into this fund. Option 1 gives us a runway through August 2026. Option 2, which you are looking at, will give us a runway from August 2026 to October 2026, so a little bit more. The reason why we're asking for that little bump is because all of you will be participating in ongoing briefings, right? Like budget briefings from all the PAYA. And we want to give you that opportunity to assess where every PAYA stands and where you'd like to prioritize funding and still ensure that we have adequate staffing when it comes to that temp hire fund. So what is before you today, what's recommended is that you approve option 1, and if you'd like to give HR and this agency an additional runway, that you also approve option 2. That will keep the temporary fund monthly allocation average at a balance through October 2026.
Okay, members, so the motion I put on the table, it does have both options in that Is there any discussion? Trustee Hulu Lindsay.
Thank you. Why are we approving something in the next fiscal year which we haven't budgeted for?
And so, that question is going to option
Well,
one
like
or option
October
two?
26, 2026, it's the next fiscal year.
Correct. That is something that we are asking again, if you'd like to have a bump. Some of these contracts with Remedy require us to enter into a term, like in advance. So in other words, we can't hire or onboard a temporary staffer unless we agree to a 90-day contract or a 120-day contract. I apologize, I don't know what the exact length of term is.
89 days.
89 days? Yeah, okay. So if that's the case, then I think we're just trying to build in like adequate supply. But if this board would rather us come back in August to put forth another motion at that time, we can do so. The reality is that the FY27 budget does not currently have any kind of temporary hire allocation. So this board will have to make a determination as to allocating sufficient funds for a temp hire funding allocation, irrespective of what gets decided today, because as I said, it is prudent, fiscally prudent for this agency to always have a temporary fund available.
Any other questions, members? Okay, if there are not, then can I get a roll call vote? Oh, Trustee Kahele. Trustee Kahele.
Yeah, thanks, Trustee Wade. So to that point, Summer, why would we not, in this realignment, adjust the budget to get us through the remainder of this fiscal year? And then in the subsequent realignment that we anticipate to do before the start of the next fiscal year, address the FY27 temp hire fund request then, to Chair's Hulu's point.
What I would propose then, responsive to both your point and Trustee Lindsay's point, is to maybe go with option one. It does extend a little bit beyond the end of fiscal year 26, but again, I think it gives us a little room for unanticipated temporary hire needs without being, overindulgent. I think that number that we arrived at, the $132,800, can be taken, without causing negative impacts to those three existing categories of surplus, and any remaining surplus will be accounted for at the end of fiscal year 2026. Okay.
Okay, can you also, when referencing the org chart for the trustees, brief us on the current temp staffing that OHA currently has with Remedy and the critical positions that are being filled to ensure our day-to-day operations continues?
Moment.
And I guess what would that mean if the board didn't add additional resources to this temp fund that ultimately funds the Remedy contract, right, that we have?
In grants, our temp grants officer is being funded by Remedy. We have an HR HR business partner being funded by Remedy. And we have an advocacy assistant who's very instrumental in helping with the matrices being funded by Remedy at this time. And the board suite has some vacancies as well that we anticipate will need temporary hiring services. So this is anticipating those upcoming needs as well.
And then I think what's also important, Chair Wahe, is if Grace can detail where these reallocated or readjusted funds are going to come from to surplus the temp hire deficit fund that we need.
Detail that.
Of course. The first item, $28,000 reimbursement to HR to cover NARF temp staff. So that Remedy has also been supporting NARF staff, but since NARF is federal funded, we are seeking we're requesting reimbursements to our core operating budget. I'm anticipating about $28,000, so that'll be returning to core budget. That's option one, number one of $28,000. The next one of $44,800 is a reallocation from the beneficiary services, of which $40,000, I'll read it slower, is for a contract for community-based facilitators to plan, execute, and report on community engagement meetings for 5 land transfers, $8,000 each. Another $4,800 is a contract for trauma-informed specialists to provide wellness support for beneficiaries during OHA meetings, which comes to $4,800. So I was informed by the community engagement director that the funds will not need these funds and to release it, and therefore I'm suggesting to reallocate for the temporary staffing needs. The next one of $60,000 is the reallocation from board's legal counsel. So as part of the personnel, I'm also, in addition to actual salaries for the staff in place, I also am holding on those on unfilled positions. That is, board legal counsel is unfilled. However, that in case the legal counsel is on board from now until end of the year, I'm also holding the personnel salary and fringe. Having received confirmation that the board legal counsel will have a hiring hold, will not consider for hiring in fiscal 26, there's $60,000, which is the related salary and personnel. So totaling $132,800.
And if I may, I just want to add that, so these are all unused funds. These were funds that were identified in our PIA briefing preparations as funds that each PIA director was willing to release. So no PIA was put under, undue pressure to make funds available for this particular allocation. These are literally unused funds that are free and released for repurposing.
Okay, members. Wait, before we continue, guys, let me do something really quickly, just so I can get this out of the way, and then we can still discuss things. So I'm going to rescind the motion I made initially, and I'm going to make a different motion. I'm going to move to approve FY26 budget realignment number 1, which modernizes OHA's fiscal framework by synchronizing personnel costs with actual onboarding dates, centralizing administrative travel for better oversight, updating the organizational structure to reflect current operational needs, and related amendments to program structures and resource allocations as summarized in attachments number 1 and 2, and amend OHA, the OHA biennium budget for fiscal biennium periods FY 26 and 27. Realignment number 1, approval of core and non-core budgetary allocations for the proposed reallocation of funds under option 1 to cover temporary staffing costs, which is an internal reallocation of $132,800, sufficient to support 5 temporary staff, supports temporary staffing costs through August 2nd, 2026, $28,000 HR reimbursement, NHLRF temp staffing, $44,800 beneficiary services, 4-5-10 contracts and 60,000 board legal counsel FY26 personnel surplus. And that's the motion. It's up there. That is on the table now. And if there's any discussion, Trustee Aquino.
Thank you, Chair. Grace, just have a question for you. In terms of the funds that are not being used right now, you referred to board legal counsel. Could you explain what you mean by board legal counsel and where the people that I see functioning as board legal counsel are being paid from?
Of course, the position I'm referring to is a position actually on the org chart. So on the org chart under the Board of Trustees office, can we have that slide? Do you have the slide for the org chart? There is a position, the Board Legal Counsel. It was funded for 6 months, from January 1st to June 30th. So it has not been filled yet. So, and if it's not higher, then the funds allocated for that will lapse this year. So to avoid lapsing, I'm suggesting that we can repurpose those funds in order to extend the remedy staffing contract.
So board legal counsel whom we have now are being paid from where?
The Board Legal Counsel is professional services. It's a contract. It's a service and a fee contract.
So it's a budget amount that is allocated elsewhere?
Yes, it is, under professional services.
All right, thank you.
Are there any other questions, members?
The Chair.
Trustee Galutier.
I thought I heard it, but when do you anticipate if we move this out without option 2, when will we revisit that option?
At the end, right before the end of the fiscal year 2026, when this board convenes to approve or determine a supplement to FY27. So we'd come back to the board, probably sometime in June.
Does that mean we're anticipating hiring a lot of people and not in a temporary position by that time?
So our goal throughout the year is 15% vacancy rate. To the extent that we can get above that, then we make every effort to do so. But a prudent vacancy rate is around 15%. And so we are continuing to put priority on some of the remaining very vital to our operations vacancies. That includes HR director, that includes the CFO, that includes a grants officer position that I can think off the top of mind. And we have natural attrition in this agency as well. So the ebb and flow of that factors into our recruitment and retention process. But to your question, I think your pointed question was, do I anticipate that the need for a temporary fund will be completely eliminated? And I don't see that happening. I see us having to carry a temporary higher fund and allocation through FY27. And I encourage this board to give some, deep consideration as to how much funding they'd like to reserve or purpose, repurpose for that particular need.
So one last follow-up.
Trustee Galutier.
Yeah, so it's in your mind, and Grace, you too, it's a prudent move to have a runway, establish a runway, so that we don't get right up to the finish line and that's when we start going to the drawing table.
Yes, my answer to that is yes, and I'll let.
Yes, I agree. That's why I gave the option of option 2. And as to your question, if I may, Trustee, today we're on the table is discussing the budget realignment number 1, focus on fiscal 26. Afterwards, my next task on my list is to update and refresh the fiscal 27 budget. So just like the changes I'm making, updating the salaries and the salaries, I will be updating the fiscal 27 and bring that forward. And again, as Summer said, with an intended timeline of before the close of this year in June.
Okay.
Trustee Souza.
Mr. Chair, I think to Trustee Galatier's point, I'll be inclined to support option number 2 if it's back on the table. From what I'm hearing, Summer and Grace, no matter how hard we try to fill those vacancies. And even if we do fill those vacancies, there still may need to be an option 2 that revisits this board table come June of this year. And you're asking this board for that runway. So I'm inclined to support it, administration's recommendation, if that is an option here today. Thank you.
Between adopting option 2 today and waiting until fiscal 27. If we do not adopt option number 2 today, then when I bring back the fiscal 27 realignment, I'll be looking at the spending limit for the fiscal 27. I have the original, but the approved budget in front of me. So for fiscal 27, we have a $3 million reserve that's available for use. So which means that we'll be tapping into that in order to provide funding. So that means to look at the 27 budget to fund this expense. The option number 2 is an alternative, is that we're using the fiscal 26 budget surplus to fund it, and we'll be using those funding that's using the spending limit today in the fiscal 26 to carry over, to encumber the funds, to carry over the funds in the purchase order for continued use in fiscal 27. Do you understand the difference?
Trustee Kahele.
Yes.
Thanks, Trustee Chair Wahe. Grace, so when looking at the board legal counsel position in the FY26 budget, we funded it for 6 months, right? Because we estimated the position would hopefully start on 1 January 2026. So we allocated $75,000 to the salary, $48,188 to the fringe, for a total 6-month period of $123,188. Why is the number $60,000 on the option?
So that's assuming from a January 1st hire date. I'm assuming that we will not be needed in January and February because we're in March. So if we were to come in tomorrow, for example, I'm holding a reserve. It's at $37,500 in case it comes in this last half of the year. That $37,500 is half of $75,000, and the associated fringe rate using 60% comes to about $60,000.
I mean, I think that's one way to look at it. The other way is that we've had a difficult time filling this position. We've advertised for it in the middle of the fall. We haven't gotten any solid candidates. It still requires Chair Merida and the vice chairs review and be a part of the interview process. So it's likely that even though we are recruiting for it, it is on our website and have been, I don't think we're going to be filling it next month. And so I think, there's more there that you could use from, and I'm supportive of it if that can offset the proposed funding coming either from the BSA budget or from the NHLRF temp staffing. So that's one thing. I'm hopeful we can hire one, but I'm not sure. To Trustee Aquino's point, our board counsel is being funded by our $150,000 professional services allocation that we approved in the budget. So the two don't go together. They're two separate funding streams and pots of money. So I wanted to clarify that piece. So there may be an adjustment there that you could make.
So I already took into the vacancy up to February 1st, and it's already incorporated in the figure. So, and among that, I also have a vacancy hold. I'm holding budget for the vacant positions. And since I already took in consideration the vacancy in the original projection, what's left is just those that is for the remaining of the year, and that comes to about $60,000.
I guess my point is, I don't think we're going to fill the position before June 30th of 2026. And so I think the entire amount, salary and fringe, is available. If we were to do an adjustment for this particular line item in the budget realignment.
Oh, I see. Got it.
That's what I'm suggesting. I mean, I'm hopeful we can hire someone, but we've been trying to recruit for 5 months and we haven't been able to land on a qualified candidate. The other question I would have is and I might have missed it, but did you go into detail on what the 44,800 is from the beneficiary services contract?
44,800, yes, there are two items from the beneficiary services of $40,000. I don't have the line item on my worksheet, but I can bring it up on the attachment number 4 if you want. But it's $40,000. They're both contracts, service and a fee. One, $40,000 is the community-based facilitators to plan, execute, and report on community engagement meetings for 5 land transfers, $8,000 each. And the second line item is $4,800, contract for a trauma-informed specialist to provide wellness support for beneficiaries during OHA meetings, estimated $300 to $400 per meeting and at 12 meetings. So I was informed by the director that these funds will not be needed in fiscal 26 and that can be released.
Okay.
And you'll probably hear it in the upcoming informational briefing.
Okay, so they're okay with that? The BSA?
Yes.
Lisa and her team is okay with that?
Yes, I believe in the version I saw online, I think it's included in the action item of that, in her briefing that's coming up shortly.
Okay. Well, yeah. And I guess looking at this past year, the current temp staffing we have, what is that bill running us every single month, and where would that? So what you're saying is we don't have any, there's no line item in the budget that funds, it has to, right? Because the remedy didn't just start, at the start of this fiscal year. We've had them for quite some time. Where did that funds line item come from in the budget?
Yes. So the latest invoice that we have is from March 3rd to March 9th, and that is for 3 staff, is at $4,400. So anticipating that, using that figure, I anticipate for 5 staff, it will be about about $7,700 per month, per week. So I'm estimating 7,000 per week. So 7,700 per week, let's say, and then you multiply that for 1 month. So we're looking about $30,000 a month to cover 5 temp staffs.
And I think you missed Grace's earlier explanation that the remedy funding contract is a carryover from FY25. And so in FY26, we've been using the balance of that FY25 fund to pay for this temporary hire. So that fund started at a very high allocation, correct? It was like 170 or 180, and that was at the time deemed sufficient by HR to get us through FY26. We've needed more temps than anticipated, and so we are starting to run low on that.
Trustee Lindsay.
So could you explain to us again what is this BSA temporary positions? Because I don't have one in Maui. I'm just curious.
I'm sorry, you mentioned the 44,800 that we're repurposing?
Yeah.
Okay, let me look for the line item so I can refer to.
And let me also clarify while she's looking that that particular line item is not a position per se. It was anticipated to be a service, a contract for a facilitator that would have been brought on to facilitate 5 land transfer meetings. Those land transfer meetings aren't anticipated to happen in FY26, which is the reason I believe Lisa was able to release those funds. So that's an unused funding allocation. The second category from the grant was for a trauma-informed care service that would have also been contracted for externally to support community meetings in the event that we needed someone on site to provide trauma-informed care. And that too was anticipated by grants not to be needed through the remainder of FY26. Does that answer your question?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm just curious about what land transfers you were referring to.
Yeah, I want to, I could have, invite Lisa to the table, because I am not familiar with the details of that particular allocation.
Hey, Kalamai, I'm looking to see if there's anyone here, if Quaker or Parker are available. These funds were actually set aside for a planned land meetings that they had, proposal they had put forward. We wanted to provide them support with the facilitation services. My understanding is those meetings will not be happening at this time. So those funds, after I had approval from that PIA to release those funds, I informed Grace because of this shortfall that we had. And then the 4,800 was, I had hoped to use trauma-informed care specialists to help when we have certain meetings that may be a little bit more taxing on our Lahui, to have a specialist there to help provide support. In prior meetings, we've really relied heavily on the pilina of our staff members to help, de-escalate situations that sometimes arise at meetings. But so far, the funds haven't been used. So in order to help support Remedy and our temporary staffing, we released those funds for Grace to realign.
Okay. And just clarify. So the 5 properties that we're referring to are properties that the trustees may have had site visits to? And maybe we decided not to take those lands? Maybe Chair can answer. This was before you, but I just wondered if it came to your attention afterwards, like Kahana. So I just wondered what the transfers were. I mean, I'm curious. Our land is our land. So if it's not our land, I'd like to know that as well.
Agreed. Yeah, it's just that, like I said, we hadn't used those funds yet, but if trustees, you would like us to hold on to them and carry over into FY27,
Okay, well, I'll drop it for now.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. Trustee Kahele.
Grace, the remedy contract. Maybe what would also be helpful is, and I don't think Chris is here, but which supplemental contract we currently have with Remedy now. The most recent one I'm looking at is from May 2024. But the original contract had, I think, a max ceiling of $650,000 for that contract. And I would just be curious to know how much I guess is left in if we're on a supplemental, second supplemental contract or amendment to the original, remedy contract, and what the current balance of that is.
Sure, I have that figure.
Okay.
Okay.
Which supplement are we on?
There's only one PO that is open, and that has $29,636 as of yesterday. There's one invoice that has been submitted and not processed, $4,434. So we're looking at a balance of $24,000.
Okay.
Okay. Trustee Souza.
Madam Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I'd like to amend the current motion on the table to include option number 2, supplemental allocation of $93,000 sufficient to support 5 temporary staff. Extends temporary staffing coverage through October 26, 2026, And that's for $93,000, CFO FY26 personnel surplus.
There's a motion to amend, there's a proposed amendment to add option 2 back onto the motion, the main motion. Is there any discussion on that proposed amendment? Okay, then if there's not, can we get a roll call vote on the proposed amendment to put the option 2 back onto the main motion?
Trustee Ahuna is excused. Trustee Akaka? Trustee Akina?
Aye.
Trustee Alapa? Trustee Galataria?
Aye.
Trustee Kahele? Trustee Lindsay?
Aye.
Trustee Souza?
Aye.
Chair Waihe'e?
Yes.
Trustee Akaka?
Aye.
8 yes votes.
So members,
Amendment passes.
so let's put on what's on the table right now, just so that everyone's clear. It's now the original motion that I made. I'll try to show the whole thing. Show the whole. No, but I mean, so you can read the bottom, the thing he just added. Okay. So that's the motion that's on the table now, guys. Is there any discussion on the motion? Any more discussion or questions? Trustee Aquino.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just back to you, Grace, a question. Forgive my failure of memory, but I think a few board meetings ago, we voted to expend about $6 million to cover emergency costs during the federal shutdown. And the funding for that, we were told, would come from surplus funds, and specifically for vacancies and personnel that had not been filled. Do you recall that?
The 6.1 million came from grants carryover. For clarification, the one that is from the vacant position is for the 500,000 military lease land, and they came from vacancies and from unfilled vacancies, correct?
Okay, I'm referring then, thank you for refreshing my memory, to the second item you mentioned. Are those funds what we are trying to replace now?
No, they've already been incorporated and already reflected in the figures.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, is there any other, are there any other questions or discussion on this motion? Okay, if there are not, then can I get a roll call vote?
Trustee Ahuna is excused. Trustee Akaka?
Aye.
Trustee Akina?
Aye.
Trustee Alapa? Yes. Trustee Galataria?
Aye.
Trustee Kahele?
Aye.
Trustee Lindsay? Trustee Souza?
Aye.
Chair Waihe'e?
Yes.
8 yes votes.
Okay, the motion passes, guys, and you guys will all be happy to know that this meeting has just gotten started. So we're going to move on now to the informational budget briefing. I'm going to call up Keishan Arponui, Keishan Kekina, to
Mauli Chair, we're going to have Bill Brennan come up and kick us off with a communications presentation on his budget. Mahalo.
No testifiers, Chair.
Thanks, Ernie. No testifiers.
Aloha, Chair, Waihe'e, committee members. Brief look at where we stand, the status of the communications PIA budget at this point in time. Page 1 is just the PIA purpose, function, and responsibilities, which I'm sure you're very familiar with. We are the division that works on products that inform, educate, and inspire our Lahui with a variety of video, digital, and print media platforms. We have our website, our social media postings, email blasts, media releases, brochures, flyers, et cetera, et cetera. We do this for the board. We do this for administrative leadership. We do this for pretty much every PIA in the organization. Just want to go over quickly some goals and objectives we have for this biennium. Spending priorities and aligned goals. You win with people. So said the late, great, legendary Wayne Woodrow Hayes. Woody Hayes, the head football coach of the Ohio State Buckeyes. He was not wrong. And so I've listed here for the communications PIA, the spending priority of staffing. Upon my arrival here at the Office of Hawaiian Affairs, we had one vacancy and one retirement shortly after I arrived. It took us quite a while to fill those two positions, but we are now fully staffed. We hired one multimedia designer who started the first day of fiscal 26. We've hired a new communications strategist who just started February 2nd of this year. We have an administrative assistant, half-time. We promoted from within, which I think is always a good move, a staff member to a senior communications strategist position. And now with telework and the adjustments to compensation that this board made, I think there's noticeable improvement in morale and productivity. And I like the direction our department is going. We've said it many times, both at this table and in public, but Kawai Ola is the main instrument we have to communicate with the Lahui, a monthly publication, award-winning publication, recognized nationally as the best in its class, along with some of the hardworking people in our comms division who work to produce that every month. We have incurred some additional expenses for Kawai Ola because the publication is getting bigger and we cannot control postage rate increases. So to distribute that to neighbor islands, to the continent, people wanting, we've had to absorb a little bit some higher costs for distribution of Kawai Ola. We're exploring newsstands to locate on neighbor islands and even here on Oahu. We have some. We're looking at placing others around the Pai'aina. And I was going to mention just real quickly that our Chief of War issue in August of last year that hit at the same time the series did was cited by other news organizations as something that looked deeply and kind of more than just a story, what the impact was on Native Hawaiian film and cinema and story and history. So we're very proud of every edition we put out, but that one is a highlight from last year. We've also have website redesign, which I know is a thing I've talked about since I've gotten here. We've selected a vendor we've about to award the contract. I want to do a little negotiating with them because their bid came in just a tad over what we had budgeted, and if I can talk them out of trimming back some of their proposal, then we can have that within budget. Also, multimedia campaigns are listing in our budget where we hope to appear on some television shows. Board members, staff members, whomever we designate to talk about projects and programs that we have and that we're working on. We're readjusting that request for proposal right now with procurement to see if we can make it a multiple award kind of thing so that we just don't do, for instance, 30 appearances on one channel, but maybe 10, 10, and 10 across the TV stations here in Hawaii. The next slide, the next page has some of the funding and expenses we've gone through so far this year. Recently, you know, we've talked about the military leased lands communications budget, which includes production of a 30-minute documentary and other digital and print and video components. Looking at, we have spent $60,000 as a deposit for the producers of that show. All the other things listed here basically are, you know, allocations and money that we're spending, that we've encumbered and that we're spending, and we will see to it that we, through the end of the fiscal year, spend the money that's been allocated. So some of this here is for Olelo, tech support that we've needed, office supplies, and the bulk of the expenditures for the Kawaiola that I previously mentioned. We are working with the budget chief to make some realignment to our budget. The next table shows exactly what we're looking for. I mentioned a multimedia designer. Actually, was the communications strategist position that we had, didn't start till February 2nd. So it was funded for the 12 months of the year. So less than half of the money is being used for the remainder of the fiscal year to fund that position, both salary and fringe benefits. And we propose taking some of that money, less than half of it, and using it to supplement the contract we have with our media buying contractor. We've went and did some extra radio commercials, newspaper print ads for some of the neighbor island board meetings and community meetings that we had. So we need to supplement some of that for the Olelo contract, because the Olelo contract is for coverage of these Oahu-based meetings. So to refill that coffer a little bit, we'll take the money that we have available in the salary and fringe benefits for that one position. I'm also looking at taking $15,000 from the multimedia campaign budget and using it in case we need it for the website improvement. I think it's only over by about 15,000, so if we can do that. And then I think to my surprise, discovered that there is no allocation in the budget for overtime. Our department works a lot of overtime. We work nights covering meetings, live streaming. We go weekends. We travel to provide coverage of the board meetings. So we do incur overtime. It's pretty much inevitable. I know as print week continues for Kawaiola and we're at crunch time and need to meet the deadline to get the publication to the publisher, we incur a little overtime there as well. So the projection for the fiscal year, based on some of the actuals we had between July and January, is $38,500, and I think the budget chief has indicated that some of that money can come from a projected surplus in the travel budget. So that's what we're still looking to do. Finally, just a recap, I mentioned most of this. The staffing has been a godsend for our division, because when we were short, everybody was working really hard, and I would say was stressed, you know, but I mean, God love my team. They will deliver, you know, and they might roll their eyes or kind of thing, but we do the work and we get it done no matter how many people are there. We really enjoy doing the work. I'm blessed to work with a team that's really good at what they do. So I'm happy to mention that. I mentioned the website. We're moving and should have that going soon. More about Kawaiola, just what a great publication it is. And just looking ahead to FY27, I don't foresee any need to adjust the budget that's there, unless, of course, we make changes during that fiscal year. But I think the big thing I'm looking forward to is there's money in the FY27 budget to implement and work on a communications strategy for the organization based on the market study and research that's going on, the money for which is in the research and evaluation PIA budget for this year. That vendor's been hired, and we're about to start its work. And I think when we get the results from that market research survey, that we'll be able to sit down with trustees and leadership and come up with kind of a long-range plan on what the communications team here at OHA should do, needs to do, and will do in the years ahead.
Thank you, Director Brennan. Members, are there any questions for Mr. Brennan? Trustee Aquino.
Thank you very much for a good report.
Thank you.
Just a real quick question. When will the market study be completed?
That's a good question. It's not in our PIA per se. It's research and evaluation. I think the final details of the contract are being pounded out, and I think it should get underway soon. I would say no more than maybe 3 or 4 months that they will conduct. So they will do focus groups, they will do surveys, they'll kind of get the feel for the sentiment of, how stakeholders, beneficiaries, the public feels about OHA and present those results. But I would imagine it would be 90 or 120 days tops. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
What contract is that?
Trustee.
That's the market survey and research contract that's in research and evaluation. I was in on some of that with R&E because it was a kind of a collaboration. And I think we put $100,000 in the budget for that survey to be conducted. The company that we selected had proposed $150,000, but in subsequent meetings with them, we talked them into making amendments and changes to their proposal, and now it's at like $99,900. So it's within budget, and we're happy with. Yes, it was.
Trustee Kahiller.
Chair Wahe. Hi, Bill.
Chair.
A couple questions. You talked about the redesigning of OHA's website. Did that also include the Kawai Ola app development that the board approved?
No.
So where do we stand
that's separate.
Where do we stand with that?
That is really yet to get underway. That comes from a separate budget item, I think, in the 4110 budget for multimedia and other things. So in there is the TV programming that I mentioned, in addition to podcasts, which we also have not really gotten off the ground yet, and the app. So both those two things we haven't gotten underway just yet.
Okay, so the $55,000 that the board approved for the redesign of OHA.org and Kawai Ola, I guess the Kawai Ola News.
KawaiOla.net.news webpage. We have 2 web pages, yeah.
So the vendor is, whatever their proposal has been, which seems to be higher than the $55,000 that we allocated.
Yes.
Is that for the redevelopment of both of those
Yes.
sites?
Yes.
Okay. And did they give you an idea of, once we execute that contract, are we in final negotiations
Yes.
for that contract?
Yes.
Did they give you an idea how long it will take to redesign
I think 4
relaunch
months.
website?
4 months, I think.
Okay.
I think they want 6, but I think we tried to talk them into doing it in 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next question, it would be the $260,000, the multimedia campaign.
Yes, sir.
What is the burn rate on that? What have we spent?
We've tapped some of it. I'd have to go back and look. I don't have that off the top of my head. And some of it is still kind of reserved for the television RFP that I mentioned that we're making some changes to have there be multiple awardees in that category. I would imagine maybe 75,000 would go toward that, of that 260, and we have spent some of that on some other, I think, maybe Olelo related jobs that they did for us that was not included in the contract, and maybe before the contract was in place.
Are we gonna attempt to have the contract or the multi-contract done before the end of this fiscal year?
Yes.
Would we, if it's not, would the funds lapse? Or would they carry over to the next fiscal year?
We'll
Maybe
have
that's a
that done
Grace question.
we'll have that done before the end of the year. The funds will certainly at least be encumbered before the end of the fiscal year.
Before the end of the fiscal year?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, how is the Olelo contract going? I know
Excellent.
originally we had, thought about or considered having Olelo and the neighbor island pegs carry the OHA board and standing committee meetings statewide. We trimmed it back to Oahu only.
Yes.
Is there what's been the feedback so far, I guess, from both Olelo and the community? And is there an appetite for the board to consider extending that broadcast to the neighbor islands? How would we do that?
Well, the feedback has been nothing but positive, both internally, which I think counts for a lot. People who watch are liking what they're seeing and ask me, hey, what's the difference? Things look and sound so much better because we're not playing the Hollywood Squares game quite as much, and when people are speaking, they're front and center on camera. The use of the graphics and everything to let people know we're in executive session or we're between meetings. The graphic look is very positive. As I say, we did use Olelo and some of their counterparts from the other islands to cover some trustee meetings or military meetings, both on Hawaii Island and on Kauai that I know of. I'm not sure if we use them on Maui. Yes, exactly. So that's part of the budget realignment that I'm asking for, that we borrow some money from other funds to cover those costs. Because, yes, the board did, there was a proposal from Olelo to do all the meetings on all the islands that was at a certain dollar amount, and we trimmed that and reallocated those funds to other programs and left enough for them to do the meetings basically that we hold here in this room, the standing committee meetings and the BOT meetings, twice a week and twice a month. But yes, I think if the board would like to have Olelo or its counterparts cover neighbor island meetings just as they do this one, because the alternative then is to, again, like incur some overtime, send some members of our staff to try to live stream it. We don't have quite the production value that Olelo brings to the board meetings and community meetings and the like. It's certainly well done. Jason and Nelson on our team usually travel and provide that live stream coverage of meetings for people who can't make it, whether they're on that island or on other islands. But yeah, I think that's something the board might want to revisit.
So I guess to clarify my question, if the board wanted to consider streaming Olelo on Maui.
Yeah.
On Akaku.
Yeah.
would that be, would we contract with Akaku, or would Olelo contract with Akaku? And are you, and I think you should, request from either Olelo or one of those neighbor island pegs,
Yeah,
what that would cost OHA to take these meetings statewide, so that the board can consider what that number would be.
yes. I would work with Olelo first, and they would direct me,
What's it on Akaku?
yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah.
So I would do that, Bill.
Okay, yes,
Is-
I'll do
is
that.
When, get what that number
Yeah,
is from Olelo. I think originally they had given us two numbers, right? They gave us an
Yes.
Oahu number and a statewide number. Our original budget had the statewide number in. I don't know if
Yes.
that would have changed, because now Olelo has seen the pace of our meetings and,
Yes.
and how we've added other meetings on that were not on our original schedule. So I would request that for at least the board to consider.
Well, in all fairness to our neighbor islanders, beneficiaries, they should be exposed to the same thing as the island of Oahu.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
yes. I'll look into that
Yeah.
and get back to you, yeah.
Chair, one more question? I have several, but let me ask one more, and then I can defer to someone else. I know we have Merry Monarch coming up. Can
Yes.
you give us an update on what our Merry Monarch development of those commercials will be
Yes.
like? And we'll be able to preview them?
Yes, we're producing 2 new commercials to air during Merry Monarch, which is, I can't believe, next month already. One will promote and seek applicants for our AHA OPIO program, and one will promote and seek applicants for our DC Fellowship program. Those are in production now. I would guess within the next 2 weeks, maybe they'll be finished. We're hustling on that one. I mean, the time is tight, but everyone's aware of the deadline. We're good at meeting deadlines, even though sometimes we go right up to the deadline. But yes, they'll be available for preview before we give them to the television station to air. We also have the other ads that we first started running last year during Merry Monarch. That was the first time they debuted, that have some of our staff members in that talk about the 4 directions that we work with: health, education, economic resiliency, and housing. And those may be included in the rotation as well.
Okay. And that funding source, the development of those commercials and the advertising and purchasing of that time, that is done through our OHA media buying contract. that we
Yes,
had
yes.
Historically.
Yes. So there was no money in the media buying contract for the production of the commercials, so that's included in the budget readjustment, and we're taking the money, as I say, from the salary and fringe of the vacant position we had, or at least that was vacant until February, so using some of that funding. Yeah.
Yeah.
Done. Any other questions for Trustee Galutario?
Thank you. Hey, Bill, we're going to speak with community engagement next,
Yes, sir.
which includes the registry. Is there any part of communications appropriations that promotes the registry in a robust way? Or are we waiting on something?
We have it prominently featured on our website. We do social media posts encouraging people to apply. I think with all the programs where an HRP card is required, whether it's the Kulana Aina program, the AHO program, all of that, we encourage, people to sign up. And I think the numbers continue to increase for people enrolling and registering.
I just heard two big opportunities to promote registry. One of them is Merry Monarch Festival,
Yes.
but you just came up with two themes that we're going to follow. Are we mentioning registry at all at these big events?
I think the community engagement folks do
Okay,
do
just letting
that.
her know that
Yeah,
I'll be
we
asking.
set up, you know, a table there at Mary
Sure.
Monarch throughout the week and encourage people to register if they haven't.
Okay,
Yeah,
appreciate it. Thank you.
sure.
Are there any other questions? Trustee Akaka?
Hello. Regarding this page here, the green, I wanted to ask for details regarding the amounts for 165,000 and 50,000 regarding the Kalaimoku Group, Inc. and media buying services and negotiating media buys.
Yes, ma'am.
Could you provide some details as to
So,
what that's for?
yes, there's $165,000 originally in the Kalaimoku Group budget. As I said, we've used some of that money already to buy newspaper ads, radio time to promote board meetings. There's money that we've spent and purchased to buy time and air commercials in the Kamehameha Schools Song Contest that you would have seen last Friday had the event gone on, but you'll see on May Day. I forget off the top of my head what else we've spent that funding on so far this year, but we continue to spend that down and we'll, and the Merry Monarch is always probably the biggest buy we have. I mean, for that purchase, which is probably between $80,000 and $90,000, that sponsorship gets us about 100 commercial times, and even now I see they do what they call these little vignettes in their station's promotion of their coverage of Merry Monarch, and the OHA logo and sponsorship brings people some of those events too. So OHA gets very prominently featured in Merry Monarch coverage.
So the 165,000 and 50,000 to combined, that 80 to 90,000 that you mentioned is a part of those two figures together?
Yes.
Okay. And regarding the OHA multimedia campaign services on a fee basis, the $260,000, is there any other detail that you could provide to us on that?
No, as I mentioned, we're working with procurement right now to issue the request for proposal. And as I said, it was initially just going to be aimed at having basically the three stations submit offers and we select one or the best. But we've recently changed it to make it a possible multiple award kind of contract. So as I said, instead of 30 appearances on one station, we get 10, 10, and 10 across
That makes sense.
three stations. Yeah, I'm
Or
glad you
more
like that.
on
And when it was
the larger
suggested to me that we look at that, I didn't know it could be done. But yes, procurement has been very helpful in making that happen for us. Yeah, thank you.
Trustee Kahele?
Yeah, and to Trustee Akaka's point, so 15,000 you're asking to adjust from that budget to cover the deficit for the redesign of the website contract?
So, you see, the vacancy, $65,000, right, on that page where I have the realignment. That chart that says 40,000 and 25,000 multimedia designer 3 vacant. 40 and 25, $65,000, and that $65,000 would go 50,000 to Kalaimoku for the production of the commercials for Mary Monarch, and to cover some of the added costs of the radio and newspaper buys that we did to promote meetings. And then 15,000 of that 65,000 would go to cover the cost of some of the work that Olelo did on the neighbor islands. 15,000 from the multimedia campaign would go to cover the possible overage in the
So
website.
you're reducing that by 200, you're reducing that to 245,
Yes, correct.
but we've already spent, I think you said earlier, around 70 of that?
75,000, I think, will go to the television RFP thing. And I think we've used some other funds, but I don't have that off the top of my head.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that the board could consider that we could allocate within this funding budgeted amount is the OHA's presence during the 2026 election. So one of the things that we've tossed around is OHA having a larger presence, especially in this upcoming election, and high-profile races, whether it is, in the past, OHA has partnered, I think several years ago, with Kamehameha Schools in having a statewide debate in some of the most high-profile races that allows OHA to, and if we do it by ourselves or if we do it with other partners, it's the opportunity for us to elevate Native Hawaiian issues, right, on PLT, on Mauna Kea, on military lease lands, and to get candidates that are running for high profile offices on the record of where they stand on these issues, what their subject matter expertise is on these issues, and if they can articulate a position to not just our beneficiaries, but to the broader state. And so, there are several high-profile races. We have another high-profile race that entered the election season yesterday. So that's something that, because it wasn't planned in this budget, but will occur in the next fiscal year.
Yes.
We could look at, depending on what those estimates are, having that come in so that the board can approve that in one vote when we bring this FY27 realignment to the
Yes.
board, in the early part of June or whenever it does come.
Yes, that would be good to do.
Otherwise, we got to find new money for that, right? And potentially there's money that's sitting right here in this budget.
I would have to look at the Kalaimoku Group contract, because they have in their contract, in addition to media buying, also doing debates in those years that there are elections. So I would go back and look at the 27 allocation for Kalaimoku Group. I would imagine it's in that same neighborhood, but that might require a bit of a supplement. Yeah. So, but I do think, it's, I mean, as a communications and a former TV reporter, I think debates during election are anticipated, highly anticipated and highly viewed. And I think, to your point, that some of the issues that OHA would raise, questions about issues affecting and impacting Native Hawaiians, also has appeal to much more than Native Hawaiians. For instance, military lands, it's certainly not only a Native Hawaiian issue. So I think it would be good for us to have that kind of thing, have sponsorship of some debates, both in the primary and in the general election.
Yeah, maybe this is one request, or other trustees can weigh in, but I think what might be helpful is, since we're not, involved daily in the communications PIA, or what your team, yourself as the director, is thinking in terms of our strategic communication throughout the year. We allocated resources to do that, and I think it would be very helpful for us to know what you, Bill, and your team is thinking in terms of all the different ways that we can elevate OHA's presence communication-wise, whether it is a strategic plan to have OHA on, the various different networks where we have a segment where we're on at some regular frequency, where we're allocating a schedule towards High Now and having interviews and having various different trustees or senior level administrators to be on, but a plan that you can bring to the board that says, hey, here's from now until June 30th, 2027, the end of the FY27 budget. This is all the things we're thinking of and the buys we're making. And maybe you use the external consultant we have to put that together. But I think that would be helpful because, sitting here in March of this year and almost 9 months into the budget, and we still are we're not sure if we're in one station or 3 stations or.
Right.
I think we need to elevate our game a little bit better and communicate that to the trustees so we know what you're thinking. We can give you feedback on that, and we have a plan.
Yes. I'm totally on board with that, and I also think that the market survey that we do will help inform some of that strategic outlook, that we all sit down and say, look, here's what the sentiment in the community is among our beneficiaries, among elected, officials, among the public, and decide how best we can communicate what OHA does with those various constituencies that we have based on that market survey. Because as I said, sometimes I hear like, well, we need to rebuild the trust in OHA, but I don't have, is the trust, are we distrusted and 10% of people or 90% of people? Because that information that we get can help us, better strategize as to how to go about it. But yes, in the meantime, we don't have to wait for those decisions. We sit down and look at calendars and figure out, for instance, what to include in an edition of Kawai Ola when the board is traveling to Kauai or Maui, and try to make that issue of Kawai Ola, that neighbor island centered for that particular edition. So we do put some thought into how we go about it, and I do think we've made some improvements to the website already. We worked very hard on updating the BOT side of the website. We've put military land leases and DC fellowship there on the landing page. We do a good job with what we call earned media. That's media that you don't pay for necessarily. So I think our relationship with members of the media is solid, and if we need to make an appearance on High Now Daily or Sunrise or any other television show, Island Life Live, they're usually very good about accommodating us. So I think we're not as elevated as we could be, and I think there is some room for growth and improvement in that area. But I do think we've done a pretty good job of elevating OHA some in the short time that we've been together working on this. Yeah.
Wait, Trustee Akaka.
I see the value in us being able to have more coverage of the election period and candidates and so forth. And at the same time, I agree with what Bill is saying in terms of that tends to be a much higher rate during the election season. So if there is an inclination to go in that direction, we very likely will have to look at a fair amount that we'd have to budget for that, unless we're able to get a lower rate through the various media outlets and so forth. And also, if I can ask too, that when there are different points in which OHA is featured in the media, if that could be shared internally as well as on our social media, so that we can look out for that. In watching the Hawaii News Now, there's Spotlight Now portion yesterday. I learned that Kai, I believe you're going to have an interview featured.
Next week.
Yes. Yes. So, I mean, things like that, if that could be shared internally and then in turn externally as well, so that that would be interested in tuning in can do so and be brought up to speed with what OHA is up to.
Definitely. I think that's a very fair request. Thanks, Trustee.
Thank you.
Trustee Lindsay.
Bill, I just wanted to say that some radio stations have free time for, especially agencies like ours, where we're a helpful agency to a segment of our community, mainly the Native Hawaiians. In Maui, I can go to the radio station anytime, and they'll just put me on board, and I'll be able to announce what's going on. Like, you know, when we had the fire and we were giving out monies to those beneficiaries, and when we're going to have a meeting of all the trustees in Maui, to me, that's a big thing. And I'm able to go down the radio station and make an announcement, and lots of people hear me, you know. So if you can check on the radio stations on all the islands to see how those trustees can also enjoy that kind of exposure, I think that would be really helpful, because not all of us understand how to do it. But, you know, I've been doing it kind of a long time, so I know that it's an easy thing. You just need to know how to do it and how to make those appointments.
Yes. I actually heard a recording of something that you did, I think, when Hawaiian Council was heading to Maui to do some outreach to our beneficiaries. You were excellent.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, you sounded real good. You had command over the details of what was going on, and you and the disc jockey, I guess, had a great 3 or 4 minute long conversation that was really good. So yes, I have no qualms about having any of our trustees and others on our staff talk, as I say, about programs, projects that we have going on. And I know you have a long-standing relationship with some of those Maui radio stations, and we should take advantage of that.
Yeah, we should.
Yeah.
And I think the difference on that particular incident you're talking about is, I was told late that we were going to be there 2 days. And the first day, only 7 people showed up to take advantage of what we were offering. And the next day, after I announced it, 47 people came to take advantage. So I think there's a real benefit to get, and it was free, you know?
I'm a big fan of radio, especially on the neighbor islands.
Yeah.
I think that's the best way to communicate, more so than taking out newspaper ads. I think it's more effective for us to operate that way. Yeah. Mahalo.
Trustee Kahele.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, what I personally would like to see, I don't know if I speak for the other trustees, but it'd be good to have, like, start with April, we have 3 more months before the end of the fiscal year. Then you take on the next fiscal year, which is 12 months. So a presentation, at least in a conceptual draft form to the board, on a 15-month comprehensive, like, media strategic plan. Every month, how many times do we want to be on radio? Who's on radio? Because I would like to see every single one of our trustees on, whether it's, paid for radio or whatnot, right? The shows like Island Life that are out there, or some of the others on the other ones. Like, how often do we want to be on there? If we want to be on each one of them 3 times a month or 2 times a month, we're paying for that. Like, who are the trustees that are going to be doing that? What are they going to be talking about? What are the message that we want to deliver, depending on what's happening in the community? of course, you can do Hi Now, and we see those on there, and they're sponsored, so then they live on those websites, and I see those often. Like, how can we get on that? We have neighbor island site visits that we're doing, and we know that if we're gonna go to Maui, that we wanna reach out to the stations on Maui, whether it's paid for or just doing a PSA interview, so that that particular trustee can talk about the upcoming visit. So a more thoughtful, I like to see things written down. I think this board probably would appreciate that as well. But then that would give us an opportunity to see a 15-month, strategic media plan for OHA that touches all the different elements of the media market here in Hawaii. And, then factors in the money that we've budgeted for that. So we're spending that down, and we have a plan. I think that would be helpful to have.
We'll come up with that for you.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be perfect.
Right, right.
Bring us a draft.
Yeah.
And we can provide feedback on it.
Yes, yeah.
And then trustees can plan their month. If Trustee Lapa is gonna fly in because she's gonna go on High Now to do an interview about the home repair program, I don't know, right?
Right.
Things that are really important to the trustees that they're subject matter experts in, they can speak to, I think would be really, really a good use of our trust resources, and it shows that we're thinking about how we're gonna spend that down. A suggestion.
Okay, so Trustee Akaka, followed by Trustee Galutario. Trustee Akaka.
Mahalo. I think, what Trustee Kahele is talking about is in alignment with something that I've been mentioning through time, is really pushing towards having a regular presence on our news channels, as well as on the radio, different media outlets. So one, it answers, what is OHA? What does OHA do? What are we up to lately? And I think it's really a good opportunity to have beneficiaries and those that have received grants and sponsorships, certain partnerships to be highlighted as well. So it's not just the trustees and staff speaking, but we're able to have those that have had a positive relationship with OHA be able to speak on that. And in time, I think it will then translate to people having a better understanding of the Office of Hawaiian Affairs, and two, that the more likeliness to have more aloha for OHA and want to partner with us, or be able to see in which we can do things in some way or manner that is in alignment with our mission and our strategic plan. But if we can look at those opportunities, whether it's sponsored or whether it's just a regular spot as other entities have on the news stations in the morning segments, perhaps in the evening time, or something that can be shared on their social media, I think that would be a really great opportunity to answer those different points. Again, what is OHA? What do we do? What is our mission? What is our strategic plan? As we know, we're still getting confused between DHHL. That's a very common thing, whether you're Hawaiian or not, whether you grew up in Hawaii or not. It's a common misconception of who we are and our different missions.
Trustee Galutario.
Thank you. We got the means just to create our own show.
Yeah.
Now, are we thinking that large? I think we should at least take a whack at it, because we don't need these other places to tell our story. Of course, we want them to tell our story, but we have the means by which to have our own show weekly, whatever that means. So I just wanted to say that for the record before we move on to what I really wanted to say. Don't mind my harping on registry all the time, but I see an opportunity that we're not recognizing. It's election year. Okay, now, we have a registry of Hawaiians that, Elise, are they required to be registered voters? No. Okay, so that's a part of a campaign, right? And then we don't have, maybe we don't have the internal bandwidth to do this, but to tie every registrant back to a district, a senatorial district, a House district. Why? Because we want to walk into that Capitol and say, we got so many votes in your district. We're not going to tell them who to vote for, but we want you to know the Native Hawaiians are in play. That's why it's so important, in my mind, for this registry registry to be robust
Yes.
and very active. So bear that in mind, because I'm going to ask Lisa the same question when she comes up next. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions, Trustee Kahele?
Gotta ask this last question. Update on the Kawai Ola distribution mailbox or the newspaper box.
Newsstands, yes.
Newsstands.
Yes.
Are we gonna, do we have one in Wailuku?
We're looking at putting one, at least one on every neighbor island, and then in addition to maybe another one here on Oahu.
When though? When? We heard that already, Bill.
I'll have to check with Pua on that.
Okay.
She's working on it, though.
Can you get back, next month, when you bring that
Yes, I
15-month
will. Yes.
comms media strategic plan
Yes.
for us on the board's agenda, can you have a firm answer for us on the Kawai Ola?
I will have a
newsstand
firm
boxes?
answer.
Because we put $10,000 in the budget for it.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
We've only got 3 months left in this budget.
Right, we'll
so-
go spend it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
you're welcome.
Okay. Is there any other questions for, all right? So we still have, we have a lot left, guys. You guys should, don't be sad that it's winding down. So next, community engagement. Keishawn, you have the floor. Yeah, 2
Mahalo,
hours,
Chair.
2
I'd like to
hours.
call Lisa Von Secona to the table to present on community engagement.
No testifiers, Chair.
Aloha trustees, for your reference, I'll be referring to this green presentation here. It was a revised version of that which was provided in the agenda and board packet. A bit more condensed, so I hope, Chair, this meets your needs to keep it short and keep it sweet. If I may do a bit out of order and respond to Trustee Alitaria.
Go ahead.
Question
The
earlier?
registry, yeah.
The registry, yes. So, you know, with regards to our capacity as we are building out the program now, which, as I mentioned in my last briefing to you all, everything is now available online. So we do have more capacity now to be able to pull zip codes as far as being able to identify where our registrants are located. Going back in time, though, may be more difficult just because the way the files were recorded for prosperity purposes were only meant to record for historical purposes. They weren't necessarily saved so that they're easy for us to retrieve. That's kind of been our stop as far as being able to access our prior records. Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. So having this functionality with the help of IT and being able to track everything online through our current application process, it will make it much more efficient and easier to give you that information.
Sure. So as an added plus, if you could put the means by which to to assign each registrant what Senate district and what House district is to. That'd be very good.
Will do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Team Wahe, for helping me manage my slides. If we can start with the first slide. Thank you. So, mahalo trustees for the opportunity to present the updated FY 26-27 budget briefing for the community engagement PIA. Today I'll provide a brief overview of our PIA's purpose and responsibilities, highlight our current goals and spending priorities, review our FY 26-27 budget allocations, and conclude with reflection on our progress and our outlook for the coming fiscal year. You can stay here. For this slide, we'll be covering the purpose, function, and responsibilities. The community engagement PIA serves as a primary connection between OHA and the Native Hawaiian community. Our team functions as the front line of engagement by fostering meaningful relationships with beneficiaries, ensuring access to OHA programs, resources, and supporting community-driven initiatives that advance the well-being of Native Hawaiians. Our key responsibilities include beneficiary services, where we conduct outreach, provide education, facilitate connections to resources, and host community events and initiatives. Administration of the grants program, where we invest in community-based organizations and ensure proper oversight and accountability of OHA's grant funds. And the maintenance and administration of the Hawaiian Registry program, where we facilitate beneficiary registration and the verification process. With regards to community engagement, PAIA's direct support of OHA's statutory responsibilities under HRS Chapter 10, I can point to two statutes directly. One would be the administration of program and funding that benefit Native Hawaiians, which are consistent with OHA's responsibility under HRS Chapter 10-3, Section 5, and maintain the Native Hawaiian Registry, which is consistent with HRS Chapter 10-19. By providing direct engagement, program administration, beneficiary support, community engagement operationalizes OHA's responsibilities and ensures that OHA remains accountable and accessible to Native Hawaiian community. Next slide. This slide outlines the status of our key goals and spending priorities for FY 26 and 27. For the Hawaiian Registry Program, one major achievement has been the automation of the HRP application process with the just amazing support of our IT team. This improvement has significantly increased our efficiency and has allowed us to respond to the growing demand that EOLA initiative has brought forth, and also our outreach efforts as well. As I said, we have expanded our outreach, which has led to increased participation in the Hawaiian Registry, exceeding our projected outputs earlier than we had anticipated. For example, in my last presentation to the board, one of the significant outliers was that from quarter one FY 25 to quarter one FY 26, we outperformed those metrics within quarter two and quarter three of this year. So we've really just hit the ground running, and the team has, and this also we had the support of other PAIA team members as well, but we have really elevated our capacity and ability to fulfill our HRP obligations. With regards to our grants program, we have begun on-site monitoring of grant recipients to strengthen oversight and ensure alignment with OHA's MIMO outcomes. We are also pursuing the implementation of a grants management software system to support individual grant making like AHA Opio and disaster aid if and when we implement those services. And we are requesting the addition of a new grants officer position in FY 27 to help support increased grant making activities and any other initiatives that come from board. For beneficiary services, we are requesting additional support through a genealogist position in FY 27. Currently, we do have a community brand engagement agent position that is already in the budget for FY 27. We would like to repurpose that position. And fortunately, having a brief look at the salaries, they are commensurate, so it should not require an additional ask of the board as far as providing additional financial support. It would truly just be a recategorizing of the position, or renaming, of the position. If you could go to the next slide. Well, actually, you're already there. Thanks. So this slide is a FY 26-27 budget and our realignment request. So for, just let me check. Could you go back up to the one before 6? You gotta go upwards, yeah. On this, for the, this would be community engagement, 6, that's it, perfect, thank you. Okay, so this is our realignment request for our community engagement. Our resources allow our team to effectively conduct outreach activities and maintain a strong presence at community meetings and events. The software and equipment category supports the purchase of outreach infrastructure and engagement tools. These include items such as a pop-up tent, banners, portable audio equipment, and materials needed for community events. We are requesting to carry over this portion of our funds so that our incoming brand engagement manager can utilize these resources to effectively conduct outreach activities and maintain a strong presence at community meetings and events. Next slide. Thank you. This slide shows the budget for FY 26-27 and realignment requests for the Hawaiian Registry Program. This program continues to be an important component of OHA's engagement with beneficiaries. We are requesting this a realignment of our HRP budget for professional services to support the design and development of a new HRP card, which will help grow the registry database and improve OHA's ability to deliver personalized services to our beneficiaries. Next slide. Thank you. This slide shows budget for FY 26-27 and a realignment request for beneficiary services, which supports a range of community engagement activities. Unspent funds for FY 26 contract services. This is what we had talked about. Grace had brought to your attention earlier with regards to land transfer meetings and the services of a trauma-informed care specialist. We brought that to Grace's attention that due to need for additional funds, those funds could be realigned to cover other budgetary needs. For FY 27, we are requesting to carry over the remaining FY 26 funds for other expenses and OHA conferences and meetings to ensure continuity of engagement activities so that community engagement can complete planned activities that allow OHA to engage with beneficiaries and provide opportunities for education, dialogue, and collaboration. Next slide. Thank you. This slide shows the budget for FY 26-27 and realignment requests for the grants program, which represents one of the largest areas of investment for OHA as the program supports organizations across Hawaii that provide services benefiting our Native Hawaiian beneficiaries. Wanted to point out two items on this slide, and that would be the unspent funds for FY 26 disaster aid reserve. These are eligible if there's any realignment needs. They have not been utilized as of yet. And then also we are requesting for FY 27 if we could carry over our FY 26 CIP funds to meet our expected contracting timeline of September 2026. Next slide. Thank you. FY 26 has been a year of growth and strengthened engagement with our Lahui through expanded outreach, improved systems such as the online Hawaiian Registry Program, and continued support of community-based organizations through our grants program. Community engagement has enhanced its ability to serve beneficiaries across Hawaii and the diaspora. Looking ahead to FY 25, our focus remains on deepening community relationships, strengthening our program infrastructure, and ensuring that OHA services remain accessible, responsive, and aligned with the needs of our Native Hawaiian beneficiaries. We remain committed to advancing OHA's mission by connecting our people to resources, opportunities, and partnerships that uplift our Lahui. Mahalo.
Okay, thank you very much. Members, any questions? Trustee Galutera? No, Trustee Kahele?
Hey, thanks, Chair. Lisa, can we talk about a little bit more in depth on the positions that are part of your request? The first one being the grants officer position, and then the second one being the community brand engagement agent position.
Sure. So our request for an additional grants officers to provide support for our FY 26-27 current grant making activities, specifically in the areas of our CIP. We are recognizing the need to bring in someone that has more specialized expertise in that area would be really helpful for us to effectively manage that grant. And then also in anticipation, if board sees more opportunities to provide grant resources to our PAIA, we would love to be able to provide more grants out into our community. And then with regards to the brand engagement manager, that position is currently under review with HR. We've already completed the interview processes.
So the position that the board funded for the manager position, can you give us what's the status update on that?
Yes, that position is currently with HR. We've completed the interview process and are just awaiting HR's process to complete.
What process would that be? I mean, have you selected someone?
I have, yes. Yeah.
Okay. Do we have a timeline of when HR is going to get back to us on that decision? I'm only asking since this is like March already, and we've been waiting to fill this position since last year. I guess summer it's you, since we don't have you are the director of HR right now as well.
Yeah, no, I can commit that we'll have a decision within the month.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
And then Lisa, so then the, I guess the repurposing of the agent position
Correct.
is what you're requesting in FY '27.
Yes. And that position is viable in FY '27. It's part of my FY '27 budget.
And that would be for a genealogy specialist and a BSA?
Yes, I'm hoping to bring in someone that can do a dual role to help with to help support our genealogy work, and then our HRP as well. And the HRP falls under our beneficiary services.
Okay, I guess my only comment on that would be, had we had a chance to fill the brand engagement manager position, and that individual would assess that they don't need an agent or a second position to assist them, then I would be a little bit more comfortable knowing that we don't need the help versus we haven't even given that person a chance to run with what they need to do, which is staffing all of the Ho'oko'okoa sponsorships and all the events that we do. I think you and your team do a great job of filling in, especially on the weekends, and doing the best you can, especially for the most high-profile events. But there are a lot of other events that are going without an OHA presence. And I think it would be, before making this change, we should get the brand manager position on board and have them assess what their needs are. Unless you want to commit BSAs to support them.
Which, yes, I'm comfortable with making that commitment. Our BSA team is exceptional and has really risen above and beyond to meet the demands of community events that are happening across our Pai'aina. And to Bill's point, one of the things that our team is dealing with is that we don't have OT, overtime hours, so we do have to flex a lot in order to accommodate our participation and attendance, but we're doing the best we can to make sure that we are there. So bringing in the brand engagement manager is a wonderful addition to our teams, that we do have more all hands on decks type of scenario. But as far as providing support for the brand engagement manager, we definitely are work as a kako team. We all pitch in.
And I guess that's why we've created those two positions, realizing that it's tough to have, normal daily staff also fill in on the weekends, right? When that's their only time off. And so these two positions, like, that is their entire sole purpose, is to staff external community engagement. First easy pickings is all of our Ho'oko'okoa sponsorships that we do, and all the opportunities that those sponsors give us that often go unfilled, not just on Oahu, but also on the neighbor islands, right? It's not just an Oahu-centric thing. If we have Ho'oko'okoa events on Maui, this two-person team would be flying to Maui. We would have pop-up tents and the equipment required on every island, so that they're not dragging stuff into island. They show up, they pick up everything from the Maui office, and they're out in community, and it's plug and play.
Yeah.
So that's what the board envisioned, and I think we should give that a chance before we repurpose the agent position.
I should mention too, with regards to equipment, purchases have already been made, but I do want to give our new brand engagement manager the opportunity to to be able to utilize those funds as they see fit if there's any gaps that we have not been able to meet that serves them. With regards to the agent position, my goal is to help ensure continuity in our genealogical services that we provide. OHA is a very unique entity in that we have two specific roles. One is, of course, with our HRP program, but the other is with our kuleana tax. And our capacity to be able to meet those needs, it would help to have another person on staff to help provide that support and the continuity of services. I don't foresee, as far as repurposing that position, that precluding them from helping to support with events that are happening off island, and you know, I don't see that being as a hindrance where having them as having that dual role as a BSA and servicing as a genealogy support would give them that flexibility to do so.
Okay, one more point. Do we have a custom OHA branded 10 by 10 pop-up tent on the island of Maui?
No. No.
Why not?
We can get one.
So we gave
Yeah.
you money to buy them, $20,000. We should have a 10 by 10 custom-made OHA branded pop-up tent on every island, Kauai, Maui, Molokai, Big Island, and Oahu, that can easily go out to these events. For sure, the community brand engagement manager is going to use that on Maui. So I don't think we need to wait for them to be stood up and onboarded to provide those items.
Hey, Kalama, I misspoke. I'm sorry. Just got confirmation. They have been ordered. It's on order.
Oh, great.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
Okay.
I misspoke.
On every island?
Yes.
Okay.
We have one for every island on order.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. What I want to know is, how much money did we give out for program grants in the last year? Because I don't recall any approvals on the board level, and I might be mistaken. If you can tell me what we spent on program grants. I know Ho'okua'akua has been taking a lot of money from the grant budget, so. You know.
For Ho'okua'akua, we have spent $601,802 out of our $635,000 budget. And if I may, would defer to Chantal to answer with regards to grants.
As Lisa just said, she mentioned the amounts given out through Ho'okua'akua, and we also have our line item sponsorships. Additionally, in the biennium budget, we do have the CIP program, which we are currently in the application phase for. And then additionally, there are grants through R&E to Avaia'ulu, and then additional grants assigned to the S&I PAIA to be given out. And then lastly, specifically through the grants program, is the Aloha Aina documentary that we are working on with Kumujan Osorio and his team.
Trustee Souza.
Mahalo, Mr. Chair. Mauli Lisa, thank you so much for putting this document together. If I can draw everyone's attention down to the bottom right-hand corner of page 1. So I'd like to say that that's a very good photo. No further questions in regards to the use of that photo. However, I do have a question. My question would be, so what has been purchased so far in fiscal year 2026 for HRP card printing? Because I see 4,600 Hawaiian registry, there's $22,241 left. How do we plan to use that money?
Much of those funds have or will be encumbered shortly due to the increased burn rate that we've been going through with regards to our HRP supplies. We've been putting in, we just put through a big order. So I can get you the exact numbers if you like. I'm sorry, I don't have them off the top of my head, but we'll definitely be burning through those quite quickly now. Also, too, I should mention with our HRP machine, printing machines going statewide, so every office will have one. We've been having to increase our ordering to make sure that every office is sufficiently equipped with materials.
So that the rest of the budget is going to purchasing more machines
yes,
as well?
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions, members? All right. That was not too bad. That's uncanny. Okay. Okay, members, we're now on to the next item, which is Hawaiian Cultural Affairs. Okay, Sean, you have the floor once again, my friend.
Mahalo, Chair. I'd like to call up our Senior Director of Cultural Affairs, Lāma Kukui.
No testifiers, Chair.
I'm sorry to say I cannot say aloha kakahiaka anymore. So we're still in the avakea time, almost awinala. At least we're not in ahiahi, but aloha avakea kako pauloa. Just as a slight overview, Hawaiian Cultural Affairs Paia advances the perpetuation and practice of Hawaiian culture, language, and traditional knowledge within the Office of Hawaiian Affairs and across the broader Lahui. The Paia provides cultural leadership and guidance in areas including Hawaiian cultural protocols, ceremonial practice, Hawaiian language initiatives, and cultural programming that is internal and external. Cultural advisement across OHA Paia and programs, engagement with cultural practitioners, educators, and community leaders, stewardship and protection of Ike Hawaiian sacred cultural traditions. Through these efforts, Hawaiian Cultural Affairs helps ensure that OHA's work reflects Ike Hawaii and aligns with the direction and outcomes established by Mauli Ola Strategic Plan. The key areas of work in Cross-Paia support spreading priorities and align goals. Three main areas. First one, cultural protocol and organizational support, inter-Paia collaboration and cultural advisement. Of course, this includes welcoming and orientation protocol for new OHA employees. And I do thank you, trustees, chair, also for recommending that we do this. It makes a big, I think, impression on our new family members who come to us. I've only seen good reports from the new employees about how they're made to feel on their first day when they're here. Cultural guidance for OHA events and gathering for OHA delegations and partner initiatives. Representation, you've all been involved in these, representation and participation in ali'i ceremonies and cultural observances, including those events at Mauna Ala. Second, Hawaiian language and cultural engagement, curating and hosting the weekly Kaukalai Kololo Piko gathering on Microsoft Teams, and that's of course open to all of our staff. Supporting Hawaiian language initiatives during the Mahina Olelo Hawaii. Supporting Hawaiian language visibility and engagement across OHA programs, internal gatherings, encouraging the regular use of Olelo Hawaii within the workplace and in public-facing initiatives. And Helu Ekolu, cultural stewardship and community partnerships, collaboration with Advocacy Paia on matters related to the repatriation and protection of Hawaiian cultural heritage, working with museums and cultural institutions on care, stewardship, and interpretation of sacred cultural treasures from Hawaii. Just a note, we're getting more and more since I've been this, today marks my second year anniversary. Today, yeah, my second year anniversary here today on the 18th. And just in the last year, we've gotten an upswing of requests from our community organizations. The good thing about this is that these organizations are recognizing OHA's importance in its engagement and its voice. So we have not only not only our local institutes, but even national, and international, where they're asking OHA for mana'o. Sometimes it's a simple guidance. What is this idea? What is this? But we're having an increase of requests from various institutions, and I like that they're respecting OHA's voice. Engagement with cultural organizations, leadership networks, including the Association of Hawaiian Civic Clubs and the Hawaiian Council, formerly known as CNHA, and of course there are many others. This page is so small, page 4 is on your side. However, I'll run over it. The slide 5 is actually the explanation. On an earlier draft that you folks received, I had an extra category on here. Between the time that I filed it so that you'd have it and today, I was able to negate that and remove that request. And that's because it still stands in the 2027 budget. And so it is good. And that is connected to the audiobooks and purchasing of Hawaiian language and cultural books for our own library here in the Mauli Ola Boardroom Reference Center. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention in case you studied that. I've removed it because it is there for the 2027 budget. With respect to my one request, and it's bifurcated, it's bifurcated here. It is regarding the Lāku Kahekahe, and I believe you're all familiar with it. Many of you are able to attend Lāku Kahekahe. So to bifurcate this, on the first section, I'm asking just to switch the GL account number from 57256 to 57255, where it should be appropriately listed. Why was it on 56 last year? Because it was our intent that OHA would support another organization in lifting the Lāku Kahekahe. This year we were unable to do that because the organization, Ahahui Olelo Hawaii, was already stretched in Mahina Olelo Hawaii with Ola Ka'i, as we were, as other organizations were. So that left me with the important task of lifting Lāku Kahekahe ourselves. And I believe through the information received from our attendees and others that it was very successful. So I would like to propose that it remain an OHA's-led sponsored event. So that's my request to move from 56 to 55. That's the first part. The second part is to humbly ask for $6,000. Now this year we were able to accomplish this within another budget category. And I explained this on slide 5, where we were, it breaks it down. And perhaps if I can just read it to you, it'll be probably faster than me rambling. So in the inaugural Lāku Kahekahe held on February 14, 2026 at Lāma Kukui, successfully convened members of the Hawaiian language community to celebrate Olelo Hawaii through speech competitions, mele, and cultural presentations. The total operational cost of the event was $13,653.58. This budget realignment reflects two adjustments. One was a transfer, of which I just spoke, and two was a request for $6,000 reallocation from what was in fiscal year 2026 account code 58200, where the funds were not projected. So we put in prior to 26 this request to have $10,000 allotted for some refortification of the Pukui reference area, and that was at our CEO's request when I first got hired. But when the budget was enacted and approved by you folks, at that time we saw that with the advice of Stacy that it was not recommended we continue this. We just hired Royce as our operations manager, and therefore it was wiser to allow that department to continue in looking at the redesign of that space. So here was the money that was, so I kind of went and asked for kokua where I could allocate, since now OHA was going to lift the Lāku Kahekahe. So we actually borrowed from that pot to help. We don't have that pot in 2027 as approved by you folks last year in the biennium. So therefore, I need to come before you and ask for $6,000 to cover. Now, if you did your math correctly, you'll notice that that leaves us with a $2,346.42 surplus, which I say here provides a modest contingency for potential venue-related costs. please know that I'm already in conversations with other organizations that may provide this venue free. But this is just a contingency just in case. And that kind of summarizes the cost. And know that in the CEO budget, administrator's budget, there is also a section of which she has directed to the honorarium section for those who've come in, and that is already in there, and it remains in the 2027 as was approved by the Board of Trustees last year. All in all, the request would be for a total that's inclusive of all my reallocating and moving around of a total of 16,000 for the year fiscal year 27 for the Lāma Kukui event. And basically, Oyavale, no, that's all I have to present for reallocations for you all.
Okay, thank you, Lāma. Are there any questions for this fine gentleman?
And looking ahead, I do have what we plan to look in the future, but I figure you have this, you can.
No, you can. Did you want to present it?
Well, I'll wait for questions first,
okay.
and then I can do that after.
Kai, did you have a question?
Sure, thanks, Chair. Hi, Lāma. Can you touched on it very briefly, but can you go back to give the board an update on the $13,800 allocation for the production this fiscal year of the 2 Hawaiian language audiobooks?
Yes. So we did make quite a few efforts to try to connect with, there's specific companies that do it. Audible is one of them, and that's the one that I use personally. But I was not able to, or we were not able to make a connection, although we did send out several emails and calls, and there's no response. But I did note that the University of Hawaii has done a few Audible, well, not under that platform. So my next effort will be actually to connect with whoever they used to do their lifts. When I proposed this, we were taking it in chunks. So we're going to do 2 books at the time. I believe one was Kahua Ka'iheleo Kapiolani, Queen Kapiolani's travels through Europe, and the other was Navahi's book. Both of which, I can't say that Kapiolani's out of print, because there was 1 copy left at Native Books, but you can pretty much consider that being out of print. It is owned, the print rights are owned by OHA Hui Olelo Hawaii, and I'm unsure that there is an actual owner of the Navahi book at this time, but I need to find that out. But the hope was to lift those to an Audible type platform so that Hawaiian language users will have that type of book. The other rest of it was purchasing books, Hawaiian language reference books or Hawaiian cultural reference books for this. The thing that's surprising to me is we actually did purchase books this year. We did do it a few times, but it isn't reflected on this budget because I think it perhaps, and this is, I'm going to just take on responsibility, that perhaps I didn't oversee it properly and it was taken from another set of budget. But I believe we can remedy that. So that budget has come down because we did purchase reference books for our area here.
So is the full $13,800 allocated budget still 100% unencumbered?
Actually, no. So
$5,000 for each audiobook,
yeah.
$2,800 for the books. For
the books,
Kukui
yeah. So we
library.
did spend near that on the books. However, I did not spend anything on the estimated $5,000 per audiobook.
Okay.
Yet this year.
Do we plan to?
I want to, absolutely.
Left, or?
If anything, we will. I don't know if we would be successful in paying out all of it because there's a few steps that'll take to get there. Number one is some of that money, most of that's going to the paying of the talent who will read it. My hope was when we got to books like Cavelo, which is Dr. Hiapo Pereira, that he would actually be the reader of his own book. And unfortunately for the other books, the authors are deceased, but we would find like talents for those voices. That's the true expense besides the platform of which we can lift it.
I guess, I mean, and maybe this is a you and a Grace question. If we're not able to settle on a pathway by the end of the fiscal year on each of those audiobooks, then what?
Well, my first recommendation, immediate recommendation, is reduce it to 1, and let's take it one bite at a time if we had to. My goal aggressively was to do 5, and then I realized that's impossible to do 5 at one time. So I cut it in half, unknowing the territory I was walking into, unknowing all of the other work that comes up here. Yeah. And so respectfully, I have a better gauge now, and if by the end of, well, by May, I believe, is the official presentation to this board, I should have that answer for you.
Sure.
Yeah.
And if, I mean, if you know, reduce it to one, then that's $5,000, right? That you can adjust to make up, you know, a portion of your $16,000 ask.
That's a possibility too, correct. And if I know that by May, then we can make that adjustment immediately at that time.
The other one would be the archives build out, the $10,000 for that.
That's the one that I had discussed before. When I first got hired, it was just an immediate, let's add it, get in the budget, was approved. And yet, I guess, calmer wisdom comes in to say, we just hire the manager of operation. That's really his kuleana, and we did not move forward on that. So that's from which I pulled the money to do the lakukai.
Okay, thanks.
But I still would like to advocate, Chair, for eventually an archives to stand up in OHA, because as we approach our 50th anniversary. We used to have an archivist for OHA. We don't have one now.
Okay.
Trustee Akaka.
Mahalo, hi Lama. I wanted to ask an update regarding the OHA seal and PIN.
Actually, that's a great inquiry because yesterday our CEO requested that of me too. So it is in the budget of the CEO. So I believe you're going to be presenting and working on that so that's under that category. I was just helping for the cultural branding part of it. So.
Could we get a preview in terms of timeline with that one?
Well, it's overdue, to be honest with you. And we got to the point where we were ready to contract out. And unfortunately, because of the change of leadership at that exact time, that's where we got a little moved, let's just say. So can we jump back on it? I'm sure we can. What I do need to confirm, though, with our finance group is it has too much time lapsed since we put out the bid. Because we put out the bid, we made a selection, and it was exactly at that time that. So we couldn't get that moving forward at that point.
Thank you. I'm most interested to see what the design options are and how that best symbolizes what we do. Thank you.
Trustee Souza.
Hi, Lāma. Friend to friend, I'm not really impressed with your presentation because he didn't include a photo of Trustee Waihe'e on there.
I'm sorry.
So you lost me. Hello. But one question I do have, hi Lāma. How is the kuleana distinguished between the senior director, right, and the program assistant, I guess?
It's a really good, and it should be a reciprocal relationship. I mean, I don't want to just call her an assistant, but officially that's what the title is. She comes with great skills, and I'm very happy since we have an extra hand. There are times where she's had to step in and that was one of the bigger parts of it, but she also comes with a Hawaiian language background and Hawaiian cultural background, so that helps me. And then the organizational part of project management skills are there too. So the distinction is that I will take responsibility for the work that our paia comes out with, but I do need that kako'o, like that buttress that holds our department. And eventually, if there is more desire to have OHA front-facing in our community for Hawaiian cultural issues, we're going to need to strengthen that with maybe another buttress or so. Today, as of March 18th, I'm not asking for that at this point.
And Lāma, you have a second half to your presentation.
It's just the conclusion. It's just the forward looking ahead. And it's here, and I could read it to you, or you all have it. It's up to you.
You can.
You want me to read it?
I mean, if you want, whatever you want.
I figure you're hungry, that's why. So. We're okay? All right.
Okay. Yeah, Kai. Go ahead, Kai.
Just remember a question that I wanted to ask, and you had mentioned it in your number 3 on this slide, and it was in regards to working with the advocacy paia on the repatriation, and I do agree. I've seen a influx of email traffic and community traffic on repatriation of different artifacts and things under NAGPRA and throughout museums around the world, and you know, this is likely also a kamakana and advocacy type of question as well. But since you have it on your slide, I'm going to ask you, you know, one of the things that has come up is, and I know we've been doing repatriation efforts for a year, and or for years, and I've had a chance to see at least some of those efforts over the last year with Halealoha's group, right, and others, primarily though his group. Yeah. Do we have an inventory and a exact location of many of these artifacts that have come back, that have OHA has provided trust resources for? They have come back to the islands, and they go to various different places. Do we, since we've used our trust resources for them and enabled some of these groups to be able to do that work, do we have an inventory of where those items are?
So in my vague memory, I asked this question at the beginning of my employment here. My vague memory tells me the answer was yes, we do have one internally for the Office of Hawaiian Affairs. Of course, some of the items, and there's some cultural sensitivity to items that are brought back, especially those considered sacred with religious ties to them or family, personal ties. So they would not necessarily be hoped that some of that information is going to be completely public. But I think, first of all, if the answer was no, that is something that we should have. So I'm going to take a bold step to say I recall the answer being yes, and I can confirm this with you.
I think you should, you know, coordinate with Kamakana and find out, because, you know, my understanding is that there's just in the last year a significant amount of requests that have gone out to museums and locations throughout the world that have Native Hawaiian artifacts that under NAGPRA and OHA's, you know, unique role in that to repatriate these items. And you know, concerns have been raised in terms of when those items come back, where do they go?
Where did they go?
Are they being properly cared for? You know, sometimes it's good to bring these items home, but you know, oftentimes, even though they are in a museum somewhere around the world, they're cared for in temperature-controlled environments, and they likely wouldn't be in that shape if they hadn't been in the custodial care of those locations. So when they do come home, that is a good thing. But where do these items go, and are they being properly cared for throughout the island? We have, even if it's an internal, you know, location or list of where these are, I think that's important. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Thank you. I know for a fact that we don't have a thorough inventory, and that is because we did not pay for all the trips away from Hawaii. However, no group in Hawaii can go and pick up repatriation articles without a letter from OHA. So although we didn't pay for some of the trips, and I believe those trips that brought back artifacts is not logged in to OHA, and that it could be anywhere on any of the islands, particularly the Big Island, because that's where a lot of our people that are trained in doing that kind of work live. So they brought items back to the Big Island, and we do not know where those items are. So it would be in the best interest of the future of Lahui for our cultural director to be able to locate, somehow inventory, you know, so that a lot of, like you said, a lot of the items were also lineal descendants that may be involved, and maybe they wanted a private burial or something. I mean, you know, that's the case. Yeah, hi, Lama.
Yeah, Chair Ahmed is correct. So for the items that OHA participated in the financial, I guess, support in bringing the items, I would expect those to have an inventory. But perhaps the items that were received without any OHA financial support, I'm not necessarily expecting we have that.
So I guess like here's an example, right? The Battle of Komo, Kikokalani's Cape, that we paid for, right? Our trustee Ahuna went on that trip and repatriated that. Where is that? I've heard, I've heard it made it back, it went to Kona, and then it eventually made it to Volcano National Park someplace, to be housed eventually by a Kamehameha schools to be built in the future, physical facility to house these items. Well, I mean, obviously that hasn't been built yet. So when I'm thinking about the storms and the Kona lows and the rain and the volcanic explosions that have happened in the last 2 months, all the Petra, my thought is, hey, where's Kekukalani's Cape? And is it in a temperature controlled environment? Is it locked? Is it secured? Where is it?
I'll get that information for you.
Yeah.
Just so you know, only recently I've been engaged in these. So even Kekukalani's Cape, although I understood it came back or was coming back at that time, I was not directly engaged in that repatriation. That Cape is personal to me because I did an internship with the Smithsonian there and studied that Cape. So, I do have experience. So I have interest in it, but it's more interest.
I've lived on Hawaii Island most of my life, and when I think about volcano, I can't imagine what location, even in the national park, would be able to house something of this. There is no value on it, right? And so that is my concern. My other concern is that, there shouldn't be any one single individual or one single organization being the keeper of all of these artifacts and items and the knowledge of where they are, especially if OHA, not only has expended trust resources on bringing these items home, but is the only signatory on items that are represented or honored around the world at these museums because of our standing. So I think we need to have a more proactive conversation on these items and where they are, because I personally am starting to feel concerned from the community on repatriation requests and items. Yeah.
Okay, Sean.
Yep. Chair, mahalo for your inquiry. I just want to bring to your attention that we do have Kamakana here, and he may be able to provide some additional information on the topic that you want to discuss.
It's not necessary. We can, I think you had it on your slide, that's fine. We don't need to get in a long conversation about it, but Kamakana, you can be ready when you do come up to brief the board. Yeah. And work together with Lāma on that.
Okay. Are there any other questions, members? Are there any questions on the reflections and the look ahead? Maybe. No. Okay, with that, Trustee Lindsay. Okay, motion. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Trustees.
Can I get a roll call vote?
Trustee Akaka.
Aye.
Trustee Akina.
Aye.
Trustee Alapa. Trustee Galataria.
Aye.
Trustee Kahele.
Aye.
Trustee Lindsay. Trustee Souza.
Aye.
Chair Waihe'e.
Yes.
8 yes votes.
Okay, we are adjourned.